Anyway, so this is like I say, I didn't have much. I didn't prepare too much for tonight with some of the other stuff I've been doing. But this is kind of a song that's a little bit suits my mood these days. And So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. It's called Bob Dylan's Dream. While riding on a train going west, I fell asleep for to take my rest. I dreamed a dream that made me sad concerning myself and the first few friends I had. With half damp eyes, I stared into the room where my friends and I had spent many an afternoon, where we together weathered many a storm, laughing and singing till the early hours of the morn. By the old wooden stove where our hats were hung, our words were told and our songs were sung, where we longed for nothing and were satisfied, joking and talking about the world outside. With haunted hearts through the heat and cold, we never thought we could ever get very old. We thought we could sit forever in fun. Our chances really were 1,000,000 to 1. As easy as it was to tell black from white, it was all that easy to tell wrong from right. And our choices, they were few, and the thought never hid. The one road we traveled would soon shatter and split. How many a year has passed and gone? Many a gamble has been lost and won. Many a road taken by many a first friend. Each one I've never seen again. I wish, I wish, I wish in vain that we could sit simply in that room again. $10,000 at the drop of a hat, I'd give it all gladly if our lives could be like that.
Nice.
What a treat, Jonathan. That's like such memories in that, and you performed that so well. And one thing that's wonderful about this song is he's saying, "Oh, yeah, back when we were young." He was young at the time. I mean, he was young when he wrote this song, and but it's adorable. It just is, and I
Yeah,
loved
he,
hearing you sing
he
it.
definitely captured a spirit of a person looking back. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
he did that a lot.
Yeah, no kidding.
An old soul. Still
I
can.
understand he's younger than that now, but
Yes.
yeah, right.
I was
All,
kind
all
of.
of all of you older people can laugh at that because that was a, a throwback line from Dylan. But anyway, thanks.
I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. Right, right. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing that. And it will come back around. I imagine you'll have maybe another thing if you might like to share later too. Um, and oh, so Erica, is your what you want to share? Is it musical related or is it story related?
It's a true personal story.
Okay. Do you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay. I think we have In terms of music, I think Jonathan might be our only music edition today. So the rest are going to be stories, I imagine.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, great.
let's do it.
All right. When I was a kid growing up in Philadelphia, all I dreamed about was being an actress on Broadway. So when I graduated high school, I immediately moved to New York City. I was given a piece of advice from a veteran New Yorker. They said, in New York City, be like an exclamation point, not like a question mark. And I took this advice to heart and I set forth on my journey with confidence, excitement, and without doubt, which included having to find a job to support myself in one of the most expensive cities in the world. It was a rite of passage to be an actress slash waitress. The only problem was I had no experience, but I didn't let that deter me. I made a fake resume and I soon landed a job at a restaurant in the East Village. And it turned out that I was the worst waitress in the world. And the manager didn't hold back every night. He was like, you're so stupid, stupid, stupid. And finally, one night, about a month into the job, I had it and I quit. And after, I felt liberated. And as I walked through the East Village back toward home, I was walking on air until it hit me. Oh my God, what have I done? I was lucky to have that job. What am I going to do now? And that's when I saw it. Cafe Centosette. It was a quaint little place, like the type of place you would find off the beaten path down a cobblestone street in Florence. It had huge picture windows and tiny white lights decorating them. I peeked inside and there were only about 20 or so tables. It was dimly lit and there was this huge mahogany bar. And behind the bar stood this woman, very regal like, and I felt much more like an insecure question mark than a secure, excited exclamation point. But my nerves propelled me forward. And I asked the woman, may I talk to the manager? And she said, I am the manager. And I said, well, I was wondering, well, see, I'm the worst waitress in the world, but I'm a really hard worker. And I promise if you just give me a chance and show me, I will be the best waitress. She looked me up and down. She raised an eyebrow. She said, be back here tomorrow, wear all black, 10 a.m. And under her guidance, I did become the best waitress. I once got a very intoxicated Liza Minnelli to stop chain smoking in the restaurant. That was no easy feat. I used to serve Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman extra whipped cream for their hot chocolate because I just loved them and they were so in love and so adorable. And Valerie Harper, she was a regular and she was being interviewed by the New York Post and she called me over to be in the interview with her. And the Village Voice wrote up the cafe and mentioned the friendliest waitress, me. But after 4 years of working at the cafe, I was burnt out, my bunions ached, and I was feeling discouraged about where my acting career was going. I was tired of hearing, you're too fat, you're not fat enough, your nose is too big, your nose isn't big enough, you're too young, you're too old. And I realized that most people never get this dream, no matter how hard they work, no matter how much they want it was just impossible. On this one particular night, it was very crowded at the cafe. I mean, people were lining up out the door. And there was this man, a wiry professor type, who had been sitting at a table all day. And all he had was a $4 bowl of soup and basket after basket of bread, which was special because I broke the rules for him because it's one basket of bread per item. And I asked him politely to leave, that we really needed the table. He did not take it well. He started yelling, "You're the worst waitress. I hope you're not expecting a tip. How dare you throw me out of here?" And that's when I had it. And I said, "That's it, mister." And I stormed across the restaurant and I slammed the door of the restaurant open. I said, "Just leave. We don't want your money." And he did as I said. And he crossed the restaurant. He was out the door. I was standing in the doorway of the restaurant, about to close the door, when he turned and he started choking me. And everything was in slow motion along Third Avenue, the taxis, the pedestrians walking by. And I just hauled off, and then I sucker punched him right in the gut, my survival instincts kicking in. And he stumbled back, and then he ran away off down the street. I assured everyone at the cafe that I was okay. I just needed a break. So I went outside and I'm chain smoking and I'm crying, asking the universe, what am I going to do with my life? When I hear this little voice, "Excuse me." And I turn and I see this little older woman in a house dress. And she looks at me and she says, "I bet you're an actress." I used to want to be a dancer. Oh, at that time, there were these midnight booze cruises up and down the Hudson. I danced till my feet were dead. And then she looked at me intently and she said, "Don't let anyone discourage you." And she walked off. And as she was walking off, I heard her mutter, "You hear me? Don't let anyone discourage you, especially the CIA, those bloody bastards." So sure, she may have been a little crazy, but it really felt in that moment like the universe had dropped this little angel down just for me to help remind me to keep on keeping on. And I wiped my tears and I held my head high and I walked back into that cafe like the exclamation point I had become. Thank you. Thanks.
Love that, Erica.
That was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my gosh. Not only was it a fabulous story, but your storytelling is also to die for. I love it. It was, yeah, so engaging. I want to know more.
Thank you.
And I do want to know how, so you found us on Facebook, but are you in Portland or are you, where are you?
I'm in Los
You're in
Angeles.
Los Angeles. Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you keep joining us then. I knew there was a good reason we kept this online. Well, thank you. If you have more you want to share, I imagine we'll have time to come back around too. Thank you so much. Okay, now, will it be Chris or Sylvia next? Chris. Okay. So fast. Sorry, Sylvia.
The main reason I'm volunteering is because we're at Michelle's parents' house and they might be coming in a little bit. They went out to dinner and I think it might be noisy in the background while I'm reading. So Sylvia, I'm not trying to cut you off or anything, but I thought this is a good time while the house is
I'm
still
good.
quiet.
It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Smart.
So we're in Portland tonight, actually. Erica, we used to live in Portland and then we moved to North Carolina and we were doing the virtual open mics for a while. And now we live in Wisconsin, but we just happened to be in Portland this weekend. So, and I wrote this today and I've only read it once to Michelle. So hopefully it'll come out good, but it's I had dinner with some very dear friends last night, and we were telling some old stories. And Jonathan, I think your song is perfect for tonight, because so far we've got two reminiscing stories here, because mine's a reminiscence as well. Okay, so here it goes. Right now it's called Find a Penny, Pick It Up, but that's just the working title. That may not be the actual title. We'll see. This is a true story. Not like a Coen Brothers movie kind of true story that you never know if they're actually telling you something that happened or just something about human nature. No, this is a true story that happened to me when I was younger. So let's get to it. Did you ever find money on the street? You're just walking along and you look down and you see some money? That's happened to me more times than I can remember. Once I was walking back to my car in Hood River, and I looked down and I saw about $140 in $20 bills just gently blowing along the sidewalk with no one else in sight. I scooped them up, put them in my pocket, and went back to the bar. Once I was on a completely deserted train platform in Baltimore and aimlessly wandered along the tracks all the way to the farthest end of the platform where there was one lone bench. I plopped down and looked over and saw an envelope on the bench. I picked it up and saw it was stuffed full of bills and coins. There was about $200 in there. I looked around, didn't see another soul on the platform, and tucked the envelope into my inner coat pocket. Another time, I was in Trafalgar Square in London. I sat down on a bench near Nelson's Column, planted my feet wide, and leaned forward, staring at the ground. I don't know why I decided to look down, but just as I did, a gentle gust of wind blew a couple of 10-pound notes out from under the bench, right between my feet. I picked them up and asked the woman on the bench next to me if she had dropped any money, showing her the bills I had just recovered. She said, no. She said it was my lucky day. I sat there for a few minutes and waited, but no one came by looking for money, so I pocketed the bills and went and got a bite to eat. And one night in Chicago, when I was in my very early 20s, I was walking down Clark Street on the north side with my friend Tim. I saw an object on the sidewalk in front of us and was about to kick it, the same way you would kick a bottle cap or a stone along the sidewalk when you're young. But Tim put his hand out, stopping me, and leaned down and grabbed the object, which turned out to be a wallet. I don't remember exactly how much was in there, but I think there was just under $200 in assorted bills. The only other thing in the wallet was a membership card for the Chicago Yacht Club. Tim and I exploded into raucous laughter as we leafed through all the bills. $200, that was almost a full week's pay, just laying right there in front of us on the sidewalk. We briefly discussed what to do with the money, keep it or return it, but Tim, who knew things, who knew wealthy people, said it cost thousands of dollars just to sign up for the yacht club, not to mention the amount of money it cost to buy and operate a yacht. At which point I chimed in that anyone who dropped $200 on the street and didn't even notice they dropped it didn't really deserve to have the money returned. The wallet and the membership card, maybe, but certainly not the money. What they really deserved was to be taught a lesson. So we kept it. We headed over to the Duke of Perth, one of our favorite little bars on Clark and Division Street, and proceeded to get tanked. We bought beers, shots, food, you name it. And because it was the early 90s and the cost of living was not excessively high, the money didn't seem to be disappearing very fast. We thought we'd go through it all in an hour, but as we took bills out of the wallet on the table in front of us to pay for drinks and food, we found we filled up much faster than the wallet emptied. After some time, we realized we were nearing the end of our debauchery, and we also realized we needed to split up what was left in the wallet. We took all the bills out and began making two piles in the old-fashioned one for you, one for me method of splitting money. Tim got a 20, I got a 20. Tim got a 10, I got a 10, and so on, until we didn't have any way of evenly dividing what was left of the bills. There was maybe a 10 and a couple of singles left after the piles were made, and we magnanimously decided to leave those as the tip. We were tipsy and generous at this point. Why not? Easy come, easy go. And we each had about $60 in our respective piles of cash that we eagerly scooped up and pocketed before stumbling out the door and heading home. The next day, I was still deciding what to do with my share of the cash saving it was out of the question. It had to be spent, but it had to be spent on something fantastic that I wouldn't normally use hard-earned cash for. When I remembered my friend Anna was selling a bicycle she had bought earlier that year. She didn't like that it was a single-speed cruiser, and she didn't like that the fenders had fallen off while she was riding and gotten tangled into the wheels, almost causing an accident. And I remembered she wasn't asking much for the bike. I called her up and asked if she would take $60 for it, and she agreed. I rode that Raleigh cruiser everywhere in Chicago for the next several years. It was the perfect city bike, single speed, coaster brakes, no frills whatsoever. No one would ever dream of stealing it. I could leave it out in all weather, and even if it rusted, it wouldn't really affect the mechanics that much. The bike was as heavy as a train, and yet it was still somehow cheap. But that was a plus when it came to repairs. The handlebars came off at one point. I was riding it at the time, which is a different story. The pedals fell off. The front fork got completely bent when I rode into a massive pothole on the west side, another story. But those could all be fixed by my friend Greg, who worked on bicycles out of his apartment, and they were not expensive fixes. And after years of riding that bike, which now looked like several different bikes all patched together, I had finally decided to leave for Europe to pursue my dream of traveling and slacking off in other cities besides Chicago. My roommate John was working on recording an album and was raising money for that project. I donated my bike to him and asked him to give me a credit in the liner notes in return. Besides slacking off in other cities, seeing my name in an album's liner notes was my other big dream at the time. Then I packed up my clothes, left a bunch of boxes on the back porch for storage, and headed out of the country. Many years later, I was living in Baltimore and went to visit Chicago. I was staying at a friend's apartment during that trip, and somehow the subject of the bike came up. One of the guys who was there remembered that I had left it when I went to Europe and said that he and John had sold it to their weed dealer for $10. Coincidentally, I met the guy who bought the bike the very next evening at a get-together and asked how he liked the bike. He said he'd ridden it for a long time and enjoyed it, but then said it had recently been stolen off his front porch. I was outraged. I couldn't believe he'd been so irresponsible as to leave that piece of Chicago history locked to his porch with a useless chain lock, not even a kryptonite lock. Kryptonites can be broken, but not as easily as chain locks. I was beside myself, inconsolable that I wouldn't even get to see the bike again one more time. Needless to say, I can't even remember that guy's name who let my prized possession disappear in such an ignominious fashion. Still reeling from this revelation, I stepped away from the conversation and said I needed to go out and get some fresh air. I needed to clear my head. I said I would walk over to the neighborhood liquor store and pick up another 6-pack of whatever we were drinking, and I'd be back in a bit. I trudged morosely down the street, thinking of the bike, thinking of all the accidents I'd had on it, all the trips across the city, and how I'd even stumbled onto owning the bike in the first place. I rounded a corner and walked over to the well-lit storefront of the liquor store when I suddenly stopped in my tracks. There, outside the liquor store, chained to a parking meter on the sidewalk, was my old bike. I recognized it instantly. The mismatched handlebars, the big padded seat, no fenders. It was unmistakable. I stood and gaped, open-mouthed and wide-eyed. I walked all the way around it, noting the new pedals and the rusty bike chain that looked like it needed some lube. I saw the bike was secured to the parking meter with a padlock on a shiny new chain. Amateur, I thought. If I had a pair of bolt cutters, that bike would be mine again in no time. As I was pursuing that thought and the thoughts that followed close behind, such as, where would I keep the bike if I stole it back? I don't live in this town anymore, and it would cost more to ship it to Baltimore than it would be to buy a new one. I noticed something flapping on the sidewalk near the back tire. I leaned down to take a closer look and saw it was a grimy $20 bill that had gotten stuck under the back wheel and was now flapping in the cold spring breeze. I picked up the 20 and looked up and down the street as I pocketed it. No one was in sight. I took one more look at the bike and then headed into the liquor store to get a 6-pack of beer. Maybe I'd spring for a whole case. Maybe I'd even tip the cashier. Who knows? I'd gone to see my bike one last time, and I was suddenly feeling very forgiving and very generous. The end.
Nice. I love that there's more to that story that
Yeah.
I have to I confess I did get to hear some of that story before, but I like the expanded version.
Yeah.
The bike with the life of its own.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
I like the way you provoke for me anytime you've ever found money, you seem to never forget it. You
Yeah.
know, almost regardless of what the amount is, but
That's,
always memorable
yeah.
blessings from above.
Yes. Just laying there on the street, you're thinking, what? Oh, money, free money. Yeah.
You seem to have lucked out on that more than a few occasions.
Yeah. And I found a lot. I mean, like a couple bucks here and there, but like a couple $100 at a time is like, what? Where's all this money? Where are these people who are dropping their money and not ever picking it up? Like, it just seems strange. If I dropped $200, I would be definitely, I feel like I would be aware of it. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, lucky you. Lucky you
Yeah.
to be that recipient. Well, thanks, Chris. I'm glad you got through that without interruption. All right, Sylvia, grace us with another story.
This is called Safety Pin. It's because somebody was asking me about a certain time and event a few years back. I don't know if you'd remember the safety pins. They were a thing just briefly at the end of 2016. November 8th, 2016. Remember that night? How the world changed utterly in a matter of hours? Maybe it didn't for you. But we were on a road trip. We were staying with friends in a co-housing community. When my wife Martha and I had gone for a walk in the dark, and I remember the soft California night air, the stars through the palm leaves in a clear dark blue sky, the symphony of crickets in a rose thicket. Late in the night, we came back past the television room of the complex, our feet crunching on the gravel paths. And then we saw the shocked faces of people leaving the room, alone or in silent pairs. That election night taught me that more than half of my fellow citizens were willing to throw me under the bus. Me and Martha, willing to betray us, sell us, and for what? For the slightest pretense of an illusion of more security, the chance to hang on to whatever pathetic shreds of privilege their leaders dangled in front of them. And they knew what they were doing. They knew they were voting to harm us, me and my queer brothers and sisters, to harm people of color, to harm the disabled and the poorest of the poor. That had been made abundantly clear. And they were saying, yes, go for it. We were devastated. This road trip was one we had taken many times before, but the day after the election, the journey was different, the way nearly unrecognizable, not the familiar friendly roads we knew, but places we had to drive through in fear, having to think hard about where we were going to stop, whether we would be going into a place of hate, confronted with people who might smile, but who would happily sell us to the devil to pay a penny less for gas temporarily, who would make our marriage illegal, who would have us fired from our jobs, who would have us put in concentration camps, as Trump had recommended openly, and they had voted for him. Don't think I'm clueless about how this must sound to people of color, especially Black people who have lived with something like this fear and sense of hatred all their lives. Don't think I'm unaware that this is nothing new, that for centuries, we queers have been dismissed, erased, harassed, beaten, raped, and murdered just for being queer. I'm old. I'm from before you could be out and survive it, unless you were very privileged indeed. But times had changed, we thought. And Martha and I had both been out for 35 or 40 years. We thought nothing of holding hands in public. We had gotten married, and our heterosexual acquaintances, the dentist, our bosses, gave us the same cheerful congratulations that they would have given to anyone else. We could say my wife, and nobody would blink an eye. We thought we had won our freedom, that the few remaining haters were learning to live with us or dying off. We thought we had joined the human race, thought we were safe. And now we knew. We needed something that next day, driving up Highway 5, I can't remember what, aspirin or Band-Aids or something. We had to stop and find a drugstore, but we kept driving. We passed cattle, olive groves, rice fields, and town after town, thinking, this place is full of people who hate us, full of people who just sold us down the river. How we must discuss them. And we drove on. We finally did stop and found a Rite Aid or something like that and walked the two bright, sterile aisles looking over our shoulders, the bland pop music grating on our despised alien ears, no kinship with the people around us. We came up to the counter, and the cashier, a perky, blue-eyed, small-town teenage girl with a light brown ponytail, smiled and said something friendly. She was wearing that royal blue employee vest, and on its lapel, there was a large safety pin, which looked odd and out of place. And in a rush of gratitude for her even meeting my eyes, I asked her about the pin. Oh, it's because of the election, she said. Because things seem so dangerous all of a sudden. For a lot of people, you know, we're all wearing the pin. She gestured around to the other blue vests we could see working nearby. So people know we're safe. You can talk to us. We're not haters. Here, do you want a pin? My nose burned and my eyes filled and spilled over, and I couldn't get a word out. Right there at the checkout counter at the Rite Aid in a small town off of Highway 5, I wept because the girl was wearing a pin.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so well told. Yeah.
Sylvia, that seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
When you said the year, I had to like something, the gears started cranking. I'm like, really? Wow. But when you talk about it and when you brought it all to us so eloquently, it seemed it brought it back. Oh, thank you.
Well, who would like to follow that? Jonathan, do you want to come back around and sing us a song?
Sure. I think kind of why I wanted to go first. I guess I feel like setting the whoever goes first gets to set the tone, which is not always intentional. It's always nice to have that sort of serendipitous theme that runs through things. But so anyway, like I say, I didn't have much time to prepare, so I pulled a couple things out of my ditty bag here. Here's another little ditty. It's I guess it's sort of in that same vein, but not the same vein as Sylvia so much, but of just uh, looking back a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say looking back, as you'll see when the first line comes up. It's not what it's about. Anyway, this is called Childhood. I haven't done this for a while. I don't look back. Oh, there we go. Yeah, like I say, I didn't practice anything, so I gotta find it. I don't not what I do. Living here this moment, just like you. Memories are just a cold by and by, in ways like air, in ways so like food. Something I miss about my childhood. Much time has passed, I'm no longer small. No one can toss me, no one at all. Have I grown beyond my chance to fly? My dreams all gone for good. Maybe I just miss my childhood. I hear the news, my future is spent, no concern at all where it went. A shrug for now, later a sigh. No conscience needing true. No one will miss my childhood. A broken door, a broken key, a broken promise. It was made to me to dry my tears each time I cry. I'm sorry if I seem rude. No one should miss a childhood.
Nice.
That's so sweet.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Erica, would you like to share anything again?
How does it, is everyone going to share something? Is that
Oh,
how?
Liz, no, Liz isn't going to. And I don't think
Oh,
Marley, are you going to? I didn't even ask. I just assumed. How embarrassing.
No, I'm not gonna share anything.
I mean, I have a 99-second story that I could do. It's this like show that I go to on Zoom, and it's like a 99-second story competition. So it's kind of fun. I can just do that one.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. In the midst of a bipolar mania, I quit my high-end hotel concierge job and I began wandering the streets day and night barefoot in my kimono, telepathically communicating with the sun and moon. Mania begins beautifully, like being inside a Van Gogh painting, but psychosis, not eating, not sleeping, takes its toll, like being ripped from earth, trapped in the pages of Dante's Inferno. My friend of 15 years has left me a number of messages, which I have not returned. She goes out looking for me in my Los Angeles neighborhood. She finds me filthy, layered in the soot of the city, smelling like onion and trash. And I was lying down in the middle of traffic. She convinces me to go back to her apartment, where she makes me chamomile tea with honey. She runs a bath, running the water till it's perfectly warm. She lathers a sponge and gently washes my body, carefully cuts and cleans under my fingernails, and tenderly shampoos and combs my matted hair. She treats me like I am her treasured child, because that is what you do for sick people that you love. Thank you.
And that is what you do.
Sorry, I'm having issues. Boop beep boop beep. That was beautiful. That the imagery, I could see it all of it.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, is it hard to write that in that time period? Because that is a lot to get in while still communicating all the imagery and the words.
Yes, it's very hard. This is a longer story. This is like a 6 or 7 minute story. Major essence of it and how, yeah. But I've written a lot of 99-second stories that turned out terribly. So this one, I just got lucky a little. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing it. Well, Sylvia, I come back to you. I skipped Chris. I just assumed. I should. Either way, does anybody else have anything else they'd like to share this evening? I'm prepared.
What?
I said I am not prepared. So.
Yeah. So I actually don't have another piece to share right now, but I did want to just tell Chris, oh, right, you want to talk about finding money. I want to tell you about finding money. Okay.
Okay.
So I grew, all right.
Do it.
Is that good? Okay. I grew up in San Francisco. When I was a young teenager, my best friend and I liked to hang out at the Fairmont Hotel. That's one of the big expensive hotels. We would sneak into parts of the hotel that you weren't supposed to go to. And one of our favorite places was a fake balcony above the Gold Room, which was a ballroom where many very high-toned events were held. Another one of our favorite places was outside the hotel, a space between the rough granite walls of the hotel and the pea-smelling evergreen bushes that were part of the landscaping. We would squeeze through there and come out in a little clearing, a completely empty clearing that was invisible from the street and from the hotel. And when we were in there, the traffic sounds were muted, so it was a little private place for us. We would bring books and sit happily pressed against each other's side in our cozy hideout reading for hours. One day, we squeezed between the bushes and the wall and arrived at our tiny clearing to find a suitcase sitting there. There had never been anything there before. We talked about it for a while and then decided to open the case. We lifted the lid and it was full of $100 bills. It was packed full of money. In retrospect, obviously, this was a drug drop. At the time, I had no idea. So, like the young, naive kids we were, I think we were like 13 or so. We took the suitcase into the hotel and we put it on the concierge desk and we said, we found this, what should we do? And that was, of course, the last we saw of it. I mean, I'm sure that the concierge desk had a wonderful time with all that money. But anyway, so that was just, I just wanted to say, oh yeah, I found money. Didn't get to keep it, but.
Yes, that's the difference. You found a lot, but I kept all the money I found. If I'd come across that suitcase, I think I would have went straight to Europe right then.
Yeah. Well, we were only 13. That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the thing,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's an awesome story.
Chris, I would just counsel you to all the movie themes of finding the stolen drug money and
Yeah.
partying on
Right,
it.
exactly.
That's never end.
Don't take it. Don't take it. Yeah.
Does not end well. No, does not end well. We were probably actually really lucky that it didn't occur to us to keep it.
Yeah.
We might have had something really bad happen to us.
I don't think I've ever seen that much money in one spot, a suitcase full of hundreds. I mean, that's thousands and thousands of dollars. I probably never looked at that much money in cold hard cash before. It's a lot of money to just see in one place.
It must have been shocking. I mean, yeah. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And as a 13-year-old, yes, I think I would have been very earnest and said, "Oh, we must bring this to whomever it belongs to." Yes, because
Yeah.
I would not have thought of keeping it.
We very much doubt that it went back to whoever it
Yeah,
belonged
I
to.
know.
That would have been a drug dealer.
Yeah, right, right. But like you said, how could you possibly have known that
Yeah.
as a 13-year-old? Oh my goodness. Maybe now 13-year-olds know about such things like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they do. I mean, actually, my older brother, who was into the drug world, when I got home and explained what had happened, was so mad at me.
He knew. Oh.
Yeah, he said you should have left it there
Oh.
because it's a drug drop.
And you're
And
like,
from his
"What?"
perspective, you don't want to mess with a drug drop.
All the
So
13-year-olds these days have seen the movies.
That's
So
true.
they
yeah,
know
that's
how that
true.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So actually, that little piece of story is working its way into the novel I'm writing currently. So
Okay. Nice. Excellent. So it's like a little sneak preview. Well, we have a little bit more time. If anybody else would like to share before we say goodnight. If not, that's okay too. I open the floor. No, I see no's. Oh, go
and
ahead.
Erica, I hope you come back.
Yes.
I definitely am. And I'm going to bring a friend of mine who you all are going to love.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm like adventurous like this. Like I feel shy, but I'll like pop onto Zooms, and then it's always such a delight when it's such a like warm and talented and open crowd. So I've gone on ones where I was like, oh boy, this is really weird, or like and I want to say, Christina, the host always just really sets the tone. And so I immediately felt welcome, which
Oh,
always,
good.
yeah, so allows for the creativity to flow. So, and I really enjoyed everybody's work. So I will be back. I'm going to invite my friend Vicky to come, and you will all love her. She's a great storyteller.